There we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Life with Joey Cavo podcast. I am Joey Cavo. Today is Scleroderma Town Hall number 1. And unfortunately, our main guest, who wanted to consider it, is having issues coming on. So hopefully during this time, she will pop up and join us. So we have Amanda, we have Katie. So Amanda, first we're going to start with you and talk about you and tell your story.
So I'm Amanda. I'm 30 years old. I was diagnosed with scleroderma in August of 2019. So I'm fairly new to the disease.
Mm-hmm.
When they found, so before I was diagnosed in 2018, I had gastric bypass surgery. So I was losing weight. And in about May of 2019, I noticed that my fingers were getting really swollen. A lot of my family and friends were just like, it's just the summer heat. Don't worry about it. It's nothing to be concerned about. But I ended up going to my doctor, and he had kind of seen me through my whole gastric process and knew that something was wrong because my engagement ring actually wouldn't fit onto my finger. So it was really swollen and my fingers hurt. So he told me to go to a rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist within 3 months diagnosed me with diffuse scleroderma. Just because it was moving so fast up it had affected my hands and my forearms going up towards my elbow. So from then I was on medication I was on like scleroderma medication just to kind of take away the skin like hardening. And then I also just trying like making sure that my internal organs weren't going to get affected. So luckily I don't have any internal issues. It was only skin, which is really, really great. And then recently I started a support group for young adults. I know going through it at that time, I was 28, 29 years old. It was really scary. And trying to reach out to people who maybe are like a little bit younger or the same age, just because there are other factors like getting pregnant and having children with this disease. It's something that I feel like if we can gather people around and kind of, how did you deal with it? Or this is how I dealt with it. It's good to have that sense of community. So.
Okay. And you're in North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey?
Central Jersey.
Ah, my home area. All right. I'm going to play a county game with you.
Okay.
Which county?
Hunterdon County.
Ah, okay. I was a Somerset County / Middlesex County person.
Okay. I'm very close to that.
New Brunswick, Somerset area.
Okay.
Is where I grew up. So, yeah. And I have family that actually live in Hunterdon County right now. So, we'll give Hunterdon. And also, if you're in an area that's in, and I'm doing this little outside shout out since you're up in that area. I don't know if you're in the 16th district.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. That's like around Bridgewater, Flemington area.
Yep, that's exactly where I am.
Okay. I have a friend who's running for state senate named Mike Pappas. Vote for him.
I have seen.
He's getting a shout out on his Scleroderma Town Hall. Mike Pappas is getting a shout out for state senator. But he's a good friend. I know him very well. He'll be a great state senator for you guys.
Yeah, so. I've seen stuff for him around. So
yeah,
I'm right in that area.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Like I said, I know him personally. So, great guy to vote for. Kathy is still having problems. She asked me to send another link. I sent her the same link, and she's still having problems. All right, Katie, your turn.
So I'm Katie Higgins. I was elected about in July sometime, about a year ago, to be the president of the Scleroderma Foundation of the Delaware Valley Board. I was diagnosed in, I was 53, so I guess that was about 10 years ago. I found out by accident. I really, I have suffered my whole life. Well, not, I guess suffered might be a little bit dramatic, but I have dealt with depression for most of my life. It kind of runs in my family. And I blame a lot of my fatigue on depression sometimes, because when I'm depressed, rather, I don't really have a lot of get up and go, and I put off things, and I have a hard time starting things. Anyway, so I thought I was depressed. I went to my routine GYN exam, and they asked me how I was doing. And now I was 53. 53 and is not the greatest time for a woman sometimes. So it was right in the middle of menopause, and I said, horrible. I'm not sleeping. I'm irritable. I can't stand myself. I'm freezing. I'm hot. It's horrible. And I said, and I know you're not going to give me any drugs because of my family history. And they turned to me and said, what family history? And I guess no one had ever asked me that was on that medical record about family history. And I have multiple blood clots in the family, pulmonary embolisms, DVTs, just blood clots all the way back, mostly through the female side, great grandmother, grandmother, mother, etc. And I said, well, my mom had all these things, my grandma had all these things, and you're not going to give it to me. So, and I don't want to take hormones, so I'm just going to have to suffer through this. So because of my history, they ran an ANA, which is an anti-nuclear antibody.
Okay.
Because women who tend to miscarry or have a lot of blood clots can have lupus.
Okay.
Or something like lupus. And one of the tests that they do for it is the anti-nuclear antibody. And also forget what it is, antithyroglobulin something. It has to do with blood clotting.
Yeah.
So both of those came back positive. And they said, well, one test doesn't count. You have to check it again in 3 months. So in 3 months, my nurse practitioner had left. So I called my other doctor and I said, would you order this test for me? And once again, it came back positive. So then I said, well, what should I do? And the doctor said, well, you can go see a rheumatologist if you want. And because at the time I worked for Penn Medicine, I knew how long it takes to get in to see a rheumatologist. It can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months. And depending on how sick you are, that can be a real problem. Luckily for me, I wasn't that sick. And I waited 3 months or something, or 4 months. I got an appointment and I went in, and I was diagnosed basically after they ran a bunch of tests on me, Sjogren's and scleroderma and lupus. And the one that came back was the anti-centromere, which is one of the most common antibodies. It has to do with the shape of the antigen or something that hooks on to your nucleus and causes you to attack your own cells. So basically I had the anti-centromere, which is the limited systemic form of scleroderma. So I'm somewhat typical of the limited form. I'm getting symptoms. I do have some organ damage, it seems like, but it's kind of hard to tell because all of it's on the inside. I often don't look sick at all. I do have the swollen fingers at times, mostly in the morning. And it seems to get better as the day goes on. I have a lot of GI issues, and A lot of Sjogren's overlap. Dry eyes, dry mouth, dry everything. What else? Fatigue. The fatigue is incredible. It's kind of hard to explain to people who don't have it. You can be doing fine one day and you feel almost normal, and then if you do too much, the next day you can barely do anything. So it's about learning how to live with a chronic disease. Now the thing about scleroderma is it wasn't always a chronic disease, and for some people it isn't a chronic disease. It can be life-threatening. The people with diffuse disease have a greater chance of having life-threatening organ damage. Those of us with the limited systemic can also have that, but it tends to be later on in the course of our disease process, usually 15 to 20 years down the line. With something called pulmonary hypertension, which is basically really bad high blood pressure of your lungs, which causes...
Oh, gee, thank you so much.
Yeah, which causes heart failure and can kill you. So it's not a fun disease, no matter who you are. I'm thankful, I'm grateful that mine is not that bad. So I figured while I'm not that sick, I'm going to help as much as I can.
And that's a great thing. And you just mentioned pulmonary hypertension. That is one symptom with me that I'm having right now. And I just went and saw my heart doctor this morning, and she told me my heart was fine. So what it has been going on with me, and I'm jumping off of scleroderma just for a minute, just to give you ladies an idea why my voice doesn't sound like it was. We had this planned for the past 2 weeks, and on June the 28th, I wound up going to the ER because of what I have right now with the voice, and thought it was chest congestion and the coughing and so on. Well, I have asthma, and my asthma and my sleep apnea got together and said 1, 2, both at the same time. So I was, so they gave me asthma treatments and everything, and I was fine. Last Saturday, the 3rd, it was happening again. I had my asthma, but I took my asthma treatments, but I took like 5 of them in like 4 hours just to try to get better or rest up. And so last Monday, I went to the hospital, and when they gave me the albuterol inhalers and all that, my heart rate went up. So they kept me overnight to try to control my heart rate. So that's why this was postponed for the past 2 weeks, and I apologize to you for that.
No problem.
And then, like I said, when I went and saw the heart doctor today, she explained everything. And the weirdest thing is, before the heart doctor came in, the other nurse came in, did my blood pressure, and it was a little high. She comes in, does my blood pressure, it's fine. I try to figure that out sometimes, but she said my heart was fine. So, and what I actually learned was the way why my voice is changing is because my tonsils got inflamed. So that's why my voice is different. So that was the cause of that, and then the coughing we're still trying to figure out. So we're taking steps on that, but I was diagnosed with primary hypertension because my blood pressure could go through the roof sometimes. So, all right. Now that I got done my little story on why this was all postponed and everything, Kathy is there, but not with us. I will say that. And I did text out to her about trying to see if she can get the microphone to work, but it's not working for her. So mainly what we're going to go to now is, so Amanda, you said you just recently diagnosed.
Yeah, it's almost 2 years.
2 years.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm going to explain to you how I came across this. I do have a friend
Mhm.
who actually have a couple friends who were diagnosed with scleroderma. One I got to know, I've been knowing for about 10 years. And this person got it we're coming up on 5 years now that she was diagnosed. So, and then I have a classmate, close friend of the family. Her mom had it, and unfortunately, she just passed away last year, and she had scleroderma for way over 20 years. So that's why I started to get involved and trying to see what I could do about it. And then I met up with Kathy, and one thing led to another, and this is how we got to this point. But if you go on the YouTube channel, you'll see the interview I did with Kathy, when she was able to come on the stream.
Right.
Poor Kathy's like, what the hell am I going through?
Well, just in case people don't know what scleroderma is,
Mhm.
it's spelled Scleroderma.
Yep.
And scleroderma is considered a rheumatic disease.
Okay.
In other words, in there with arthritis and lupus and things like that. It is a usually chronic disease of the connective tissue,
Mhm.
which is autoimmune in nature. In other words, your body is attacking its own immune system.
Okay.
So when our bodies attack our immune system in someone who has scleroderma, there's probably more, but as far as the research shows, there's two main ways that damage is done to our organs and our skin. One is the creation of scar tissue, which they call fibrosis.
Mhm.
And another is the vascular issues. In other words, the scar tissue that's forming in your body is narrowing the vasculature, the small little blood vessels, which is why sometimes you'll meet people with scleroderma and it's 75 degrees out and they have a sweatshirt on,
Mhm.
scarf, and gloves. And if they go in air conditioning, they generally will look like someone what is wrong with that person?
Right.
And it's because they actually are cold.
Yeah.
Because if you don't keep your core warm,
Mhm.
most of us have a condition called Raynaud's,
Right.
which is where you have spasms of your small blood vessels. And it especially shows up in your hands,
Right.
feet, sometimes your nose and your ears, believe it or not, but mostly your hands and your feet.
Yeah.
And if it's over time, when it gets bad, it can actually cause permanent damage to your hands, where you have ulcers.
Mhm.
The blood can't get through because the little tiny blood vessels that are far from the heart, the ones in the feet, in the hands, are getting closed up by the scar tissue. And so it's a fibrotic disease and it's a vascular disease. And that's how it causes damage, by leaving scar tissue inside various organs, and cutting down on circulation within the organs.
All right. Now, Katie, since you are now the board president, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Here's the quiz. Here's the quiz question for you, trivia question for you. Now, this was brought up. If you should watch the last podcast that Kathy and I did, we found out how many people, as of last month, had scleroderma. Is the answer A, 200,000, B, 300,000, or C, 400,000?
Well, the last I heard it was B, 300,000.
Okay, you're right. Okay.
Although I honestly think they're not updating the data because there's more and more people being born every day, and it's been 300,000 for the last 7 years.
Okay.
Of course, some of us.
Actually, so it's been 300,000 for more than 7 years. When I first heard about it, was about 200 when I was Googling it and everything at the time. So it's 300,000 now. Okay.
Right.
All right. So let's go back to Amanda, who is a very beautiful young lady. We'll say that.
Thank you.
And she was. We accidentally cut her off. So you like I said, you were just recently diagnosed, and so you're working with the younger. You're doing support groups with younger people.
Yeah. So actually, very similar to Katie, after I was diagnosed, I kind of went into, I wouldn't say it was a full-on depression, but after I was diagnosed, I kind of retreated inward, and I didn't want to talk about the disease. My family, I kind of didn't want to bring it up with my family. We have had some tragic events that have happened in my family in the past. So my mom was obviously very concerned, but I was like, this is it. This is a death sentence. I was really, really upset about finding out that this disease has no cure. Kind of went into the why me. And thankfully, my husband was really great about trying to keep me positive. But during the pandemic, not seeing people, not being able, because taking the immunosuppressant drugs, you really can't get sick. So not being able to go out, I just got spiraled into a pretty bad depressive episode. And the one thing that actually helped me was going to therapy. And then from there, my therapist was like, why don't you join a support group? And I was like, that's actually a really great idea. So I found some online support groups. But the support group that I was going to tends to be a little bit older. There wasn't anyone my age. So asking about pregnancy, asking about the things that I wanted to know about, they either had their children before their diagnosis or didn't have children. So that's kind of where I got the idea to, well, I had gone to a young adult one that's all over the country. People from Hawaii and the UK call in. And I was like, if I could do that in like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, I think that would really be helpful. And, trying to reach out to the people in this area. So that's kind of where that started.
Okay. All right. Well, believe it or not, I think it was in 19 that the Scleroderma Foundation actually had a conference here in Philadelphia. Right about, I'm about 3 miles away from Center City. And that's where it practically happened, right in there. And I was mentioning it to my friend who was diagnosed and trying to convince that person to go. Katie, you probably went to it by any chance?
I did, yes. Yeah, I wasn't president then, but I did go to it. I don't know if it was 18 or 19. I can't remember.
It was in Philadelphia though, right?
It was in Philadelphia. The last one is in Philadelphia. The next one's going to be in Seattle, in the Bellingham, Washington state area.
Oh, wow.
Once we're finally allowed to see each other in person. The problem is there's some of us who are on immune suppressants and some of us who aren't. And some of us who don't believe in vaccines and some of us who do. And it's really hard. And also, if you're immune compromised, there's a question as to whether the vaccine actually works for you.
That would lead me to my next question for you both about the COVID-19 vaccine. Have you thought about getting it?
Oh, I'm fully vaccinated.
You're fully vaccinated.
I'm fully vaccinated as well.
Good.
Yeah. The rheumatologists were usually recommending it. And also, I'm a retired nurse and I was giving out vaccines actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think
great.
I think it's the best idea. It's the best way we have to get this under control.
Yeah.
And I know some people are, well, let the other people take it. But the problem with that is some people are taking it and it's still not giving them immunity. For example, some people with cancer who've been on immune suppressant for 20 years or 15 years, I mean, the vaccine does not work.
Right.
And they get a slight response, but not a full response. So they're still not immune.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was watching News 12 this morning, and they were talking about this lady who was fully vaccinated, went to another country, and tested positive for COVID out there.
Well, even if you're vaccinated, there are still outliers. You can still get COVID, even if the vaccine worked and you do have immunity. It's almost like it's almost like everything else. Like if you're around someone that's coughing in your face, or you're stuck in a bus with a bunch of people that are hacking and coughing and they actually have it, and how long you're stuck on that bus with them. You know, it's the amount of time and the amount of viral load that you get.
Right.
That's partially why the people who work with patients with COVID need the really good masks that they don't sell to the public, because they're in short supply and they can't have them for everyone.
Right. And I'm getting ready to take a plane on the 25th to go to Vegas for the first time in 21 years. And so, me being vaccinated, it's only a 5.5 hour flight. Matter of fact, let me double check something here.
Wear your mask.
Oh, I have to. I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have to. And just to show proof, there is my vaccination card.
All right.
Yes. So, but I was on a study. I was on a research study for AstraZeneca. So that's how we found out with this one. So let me see. About 5.5 hour flight. Yeah, 5.5 hour flight each way. Oh. So it's a nonstop. I'm only there one night anyway, but I shouldn't have any problems after 5.5 hours. But staying in Philadelphia airport's gonna be fun. But that's neither here nor there. Unfortunately, like I said, we can't get Kathy on here. We're gonna cut this short. Any advice in closing that you want to give people to look to see if they may have scleroderma?
Well, some of the signs can be mistaken for other things. But if you get fingers that are so swollen they look like sausages, especially if it's accompanied by a lot of fatigue, or some, what are the other really obvious symptoms? Well, certainly if you have any kind of shortness of breath that you never had before. I mean, it's one thing if you've had asthma in your life and it's just the same old thing. But if you have been a healthy person and all of a sudden you can't make it up the stairs without stopping, you need to see a doctor. It may well be something other than scleroderma, but not being able to breathe and not being able to physically do what you normally were able to do is definitely a reason to see your family practitioner. And if you have any kind of autoimmune disease in your family history, for example, my mom didn't have autoimmune, but I have an aunt that had Crohn's, a niece that has MS, another person that had MDIP, and someone else with another autoimmune disease. So autoimmune disease tends to run in families. You may not get the same exact one that your family member got, but if you have any kind of family history of autoimmune disease, especially if you're extremely fatigued, and your fingers look like sausages, or your skin is so hard that you can't even pinch it, where I don't even know how to explain it because I didn't have it, but I know it gets so hard that it hurts. It's like stretched like a I don't like it when you're trying to get saran wrap over something that's too big for it, like a too small piece. That's how your skin feels, and it hurts, and it's really thick, and often it itches. But basically, the sausage fingers, having trouble breathing, having trouble doing your normal activities, you should see a doctor. And Amanda, did you want to add anything?
I would just say you probably know your body the best, so listen to your body. And if you go to a doctor who, I've been to many doctors who look at me because I am young and they say, you are a healthy 30-year-old, there's nothing wrong with you. There's no shame in going to a second opinion or third opinion. You have to advocate for yourself.
Right.
Exactly. And once you get the diagnosis, you need to be aware that that it's very scary, and to be very careful of what websites you visit.
Yes.
Look at the date on the information, because even though the disease is still, there is no cure, and there's still a lot of people who do die of scleroderma or related to scleroderma. There are new drugs coming out. Usually you can kind of learn to live with it, but it is hard. It's a long adjustment period. And especially if you're someone like me who has a family history and had depression even before you get the scleroderma, I would advise that you see someone for mental health issues, especially if you're feeling really bad.
Okay, perfect. Kathy tried to change her settings and still couldn't get back on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to schedule another town hall. Now, if you two want to come back on again with Kathy, I'm looking at August, probably mid-August. I'll give her an idea of a date when and then as well, because I can't have no more than 6 people on a screen, without going into a budget, quote unquote. But and I thank you both for coming on. And I do apologize to Kathy that she had trouble getting on, and but she said, we're going to schedule another one, and I said, these two could come on as well because it was fun to chat with you, and I will send Kathy the link so she can send it to you guys, and then you can share it on your Facebook and so on. Okay.
Perfect.
And thank you guys so much for coming on. Hopefully, Scleroderma Town Hall 2 will be bigger and better. So my apologies to Kathy for not being able to get on, but thank you so much, Kathy, for introducing me to these two great people. And now we're getting more of a spectrum of age being in the equation of people who were diagnosed with scleroderma and Raynaud's and Sjogren's and all that. There is no age. Like Amanda was mentioning, she does a group with young people. And Amanda, with that, how many people do you have in your group that you're doing?
So right now it's just 6, including myself. So it's very small. But I have a feeling that once we start getting the word out and start telling people, it will probably grow. Because I know for me, going to support groups, that it can be really intimidating, especially when you see, if you're not showing a lot of symptoms, like I outwardly, you wouldn't know that I'm sick. And I know that it can be a little bit scary for people to see that, and then they stop coming because they don't want to interact. And I really feel like if we could, there's probably more people out there who have scleroderma than we know, and maybe there's just not a way to reach out to them. So hopefully having a safe space for people who have those questions, who are I think it's in between the ages of 18 and up to your 30, 35. I think that's a young adult.
With scleroderma, yes.
Scleroderma, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been my next question, would have been the youngest one that you might have talked to in your group.
You know, there are kids. Unfortunately,
Yeah, there are
kids. There's like a 4-year-old, or
Wow.
I mean, yeah. It's I feel for their parents, and I feel for the kids. It's not an easy road, even for an adult, and for a child. I can't imagine going through this. So I thank you, Joey, for helping spread the word about scleroderma and for having us on as guests. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
yes,
no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, now I put out a challenge last time when I did have Kathy on to donate $5 to the Scleroderma Foundation. And as I explained, I do have someone that I do know a couple people that have, scleroderma. So that's why I kept saying, I said, I got to do something because, it's like if I don't do anything, I'm not being a support either to this person. So, but definitely thank you so much. And I'm just sending Kathy a message that I'm going to send her the link once I set this up. And they'll go to you. And then, like I said, please share it. Like I said, this will be on the YouTube channel. I also have a blog, lifewithjoeycalvo.blog. It's going to be up on there as well. Kathy's like, okay, thanks. Poor Kathy.
Yeah.
She didn't miss much.
We love you, Kathy.
Yeah. But thank you, Kathy, if you can still hear it. Yeah. Yeah, we're all saying, oh, thanks, Kathy, by note. But thank you so much, ladies, for coming on. And hopefully, when I do have number 2 set up, I definitely would like you two to come back as well. So that way we can have a better, a much bigger spectrum. So that way we got the young at heart, like Amanda, and then
the older people like me.
I didn't say that. I'm up there too. I just turned 50. Okay,
Right.
the mature adult. There we go.
I have no problem saying it. No problem.
Thank
I
you
don't
so
want
much,
to be
ladies.
30 again. No, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast and watching it on YouTube. May God bless you all. Take care.
You
Bye
too.
bye now.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you.